In the video about creating content types, we made a content type called product, and we'll use that from here on out to make nodes about the products we offer at our fictional olive oil company. But right now there's not much we can do with it, and we can see that by going up to Add Content and clicking Product. It just has a title and a body, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to extend this content type by adding fields for price, an image for the product, and the SKU identifier. That's the stock keeping unit in merchant talk. To do that, we go up to Structure and Content Types, and then next to Product, we click Manage Fields. To add a new field, we enter the information along this line under Add New Field. I'm going to add SKU as the label, the field name, and this is the name that Drupal looks at internally as opposed to the label that you see when you look at the field itself, will be SKU. That has to be all lowercase. And as a field type, I'm going to choose integer, and the only option there is text field. Now this type of data to store is a very big list, and each one has its own set of options. Rather than explain all of them here, I'll tell you about them in a different video in this course, which is about exploring field types and options. But for now, we'll just click Save. Now when you add a field to a content type, you typically go through two screens. The first setting screen is for that field everywhere that it appears in your Drupal site. And it usually doesn't have very many settings. In this case, it has no field settings, so I'll just say Save. Then we come to the second page, which only affects the SKU, the field that we've just created, when it's in the product content type. You see, when you create a field, you can reuse it in different content types. We won't be getting into that here. The important thing is to go through both screens. In our case, I'm going to make it a required field, and we have a minimum and maximum value. Now let's just say that our olive oil company keeps track of things by using a 5-digit number. Well, in that case, the minimum should be 10,000, 10000, and the maximum should be 999,999. And for help text, I'm just going to add, if the item has no SKU, use 99999. The rest we'll leave as it is, but again, I'll come back and talk about some of these things later on. And click Save Settings. Now I said I was going to add two other fields. One is a price and the other is an image. I'll quickly add the price. Label will be price, field name price. That'll be a decimal type. And again, text field is the only option, and Save. Here we have a few more options in the first settings screen. We can choose how precise we want the decimal to be, and how many digits to show to the right of the period. In our case, we don't need to store a very precise number. However, the smallest precision we can have for decimal is 10, so that's fine. Number of digits to the right of the decimal, fortunately it's already on 2, which is what you get in money. And since we're in the United States, or at least I am, I'll say decimal point for the marker, and save those field settings. We'll make this field required. We don't have a minimum or maximum. And for the help text, I'll just say, enter as numbers and a period for the decimal point. No need to include the $sign. Under prefix, I'm going to add a $sign, and you'll see how this comes out in just a few minutes. The rest I'll leave as it is, and then say Save. Finally, we come to a field that's a little bit different, the image. I'm going to call it Image, and as a field type, it will be of the image type. And again, we have only one option. Go down to Save. Finally, we're going to add an image. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to call it Product Photo, and the field type will be Image. We have only one option there as well, Image, and Save. In the first screen of settings, I am going to put in a default image. I'll click Browse, and I have one in my exercise files here, this No Image Available, and say OK. The upload destination we don't really need to talk about right now. Essentially, you have the option of having either public files, which are downloadable by anybody, or private files. That's getting into an area that's a little bit beyond this course. But for now, we'll click Save Field. On the next screen, the options are quite different because we're dealing with an image as opposed to a number. I'll leave things mostly as they are. In particular, I'm going to leave the image resolution by pixels as it is because I'll be showing you how to handle that in a later video about modifying image styles. However, I do want to make sure that people don't upload absolutely enormous files and fill up our server, so I'll turn this into 2 MB. That should be big enough for most graphics. I'll enable the alt and title fields, and you'll see what those do when we create a node of this content type. And the remainder I'll leave as it is, and click Save Settings. So we have our product content type, and we have the fields that we want. Let's take a look at what happens now when someone wants to create a product type node. As usual, we would go up to Add Content and select Product. There's our title, there's our body, and as we scroll down further, there are the 3 fields that we added. But there are a few things that I think are not quite right with this. For one thing, we don't need all this space. We're going to have very short product descriptions. Also, I don't think it should be called body. We could call it something else, like product description. That'll be a little bit easier for people who are entering products later, who perhaps aren't as well trained. This way they'll know exactly what a product description is as opposed to a body. Furthermore, I think these things, the SKU, price, and photo, should come above because they're the first things you enter. So we'll go back to our content type by clicking Structure and Content Types. Then next to Product at the bottom of the screen, we click once again Manage Fields. The first thing I'll do is I'll change the name of that body field by going over and clicking Edit next to it. Instead of body, it'll be Product Description. And instead of being 20 rows, it'll just be 5 rows. I don't want people to enter a lot of text there. Go down and Save Settings. Now to move things around, I just grab these little compass icons and drag them as I like. SKU goes there, price goes there, and I think I'll leave the photo after it. Go down and save. Now we're ready to start adding products. I'll go up to Add Content and Product again, and I'll just add one as a sample. Product is pure grade A olive oil, 1 liter. The SKU, let's just say it's 15011. The price is $18. And notice we have our little bit of information here telling us how to do that. Period 00. And I'll enter a quick description here. And I'll even put in a little bit of HTML. We know what HTML is permitted, of course, by this list here under the filtered HTML text format. You can learn more about text formats in a separate video earlier in this course. So that's the product description. Then we have a place for a photo. Again, I'll browse and go back to my exercise files, select it, and upload. Now the alternate text is useful for those people who are looking at the site through a different kind of screen reader that is not a browser, or for people who are having problems with seeing, so it's very useful to have. This will be, once again, let me see, it was pure grade A olive oil. Photo of grade A olive oil bottle. And the title is just what people see when they hover over the image. So in this case, I'm going to say 1 liter for $18. Scroll down and save. And there it is. Looks pretty good, huh? We have our photo, we have our price, our SKU, and our description. Of course, we could have put all of this information into the body field and just left it at that. But by making separate fields, we'll later be able to play with the data in interesting ways, particularly when we start using views later in the series. But first, we're going to take advantage of field settings to make things prettier. We don't really need to have the word product photo here, for example. And this could be in line with price as 1 line instead of 2. You'll find out how to fix all of these things and do a lot more in the video about adjusting field display.